I do train different technology aspects as well as help organization to transform from the old models, like basically waterfall model to DevOps model. So let's, without any more delay, let's understand and get started. And I appreciate and thank you everyone for joining today with us. So you might have seen or you might have heard that DevOps, the term when you hear it, Dev and Ops, is clearly tells you the combination of Dev and Ops. But this term of or terminology DevOps, when it was started, it was the understanding is like this: developers and testers, you integrate them and you become DevOps. Basically, right now in this present scenario, it's not anymore limited to this portion. It is much more beyond it, beyond only integrating the developers and testers and operations. We will understand what is taking beyond to this uh, apart from only integration of this development testers. So before we understand DevOps, let's understand different what was there before DevOps, right? So as some of you are already experienced and some of you may be starting with DevOps. So if we try to understand DevOps, before DevOps there were basically a development team, a testing team, and system engineering, or also they were called as operations team. Now I have one question here. What is the goal for a software development team? Anyone would like to answer? Like Rishikesh, I think you can answer. What is the basic goal of the development team? What they mean mainly?
They gather the requirements and code. They do coding.
They do coding, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's they do coding. So their focus is to code, right? So how do they want to code? They will decide, and the major focus is after the coding is done, they think their work is done, their job is done. Now, what is the role of a QA team, quality assurance, or the testing team? Usually, in general, we name them. What do you mean by a QA team? What is the goal of a QA team?
They test the code.
They test the code. So that means that test the code means what exactly they try to do. They try to identify bugs. They try to identify or find out issues that the developers has been created. Right? So that means the software development team and testing team, they are really good friends, isn't it? Yes, no? What do you think, Priya? And what others think? If scenario is the QA team or the testing team is always behind the software development team to identify the problems, whatever they create, I mean the code they create, that means definitely they are not really liking each other. So the goal of development team, where they want to develop the code and release it as soon as possible, the QA team are the obstacle for them. They do not allow them to release in time because they will identify as much as issues, as many as problems, and throw it on their face. So in this time, there is a other party. They are called as your system engineering or your operations team. They are waiting for something will come and they will deploy. So while they try to deploy, I mean the major goal is to deploy the application and maintain it. So here if you see, the three teams has three different goals. development team work for development, like creating the application. The QA team are the hurdles for or they are the persons, they certify the application is working fine. And the deployment team, they have the target of maintaining the system. Now first the problem is here. When the software development team created the application, they have created obstacles for them by identifying issues and bugs. So that means they are getting delayed. So when they are getting delayed, the process here itself takes some time, and the system engineering teams are waiting. Once the software comes, they will deploy, which is again delaying further, because from the beginning it started delaying, and the pressure always on the system engineering team or the admins or the operations team to release the application as soon as possible. And unfortunately, majority of the time when they start deploying, it breaks. Rishikesh, isn't it? Major before SRE also you think. So when it was only, there was no coordination between team, proper coordination, and ultimately what happens is the system fails while it gets deployed. So what happens in this case? So who is responsible for the failure? That's the question, right? Who is going to take the blame? If right now, let's say something happened, some issue happened, anyone ready to take a blame on yourself that okay, this is happened due to me? In any case, if you ask the question to yourself or to any of your friends, nobody will nobody will be willing to take the blame. So what happens in this process also, the blame game starts. Means the system in the failure, understand, the failure is there. Systems team, the engineering or the ops team will say, no, there is a problem in the code, and due to which it is failing, it is not getting deployed or it is not getting installed. The QA team will say, we have tested is very much fine in our environment. And development will say, we have also whatever we created, it was perfectly working in our environment. So now understand, here I am specifying particularly what do you mean by our environment. Means everybody here, the development team, the QA team, and the system operations team, they are working in different environment for themselves. Now basically, if you try to understand the flow here, the development team basically or usually work on their laptops or some development systems where everything is open, right? Everything open means you can download everything, you can install everything. So they might have done so many of additional installation of the programs or libraries. Similarly, for the QA team, that's for their system also it's open. So whatever the testing they do in a very local and generic system which is open. But when the deployment happens, the environment is production grade, right? So in this production grade, everything is closed. It's a closed environment. I mean, it's not, some of the time it is not connected to the internet. Some of the time there are very limited access in the systems. So while the application got tested in an open environment, and when it comes to the closed environment, it fails. But how to identify the failures? So there could be possibilities also, other problems in the code itself. So there are possibilities a number of there for the appropriate failure. But who is going to take the blame? As the problem starts, a wall team or a virtual team gets formed who actually works to identify, or usually we in the past we used to go to a war room. Okay, that's simply a meeting room only, but we named it as a war room where we'll fight with each other it's to say or to prove, it's the problem of yours. The system team will say could be the problem of QA or development will say it's a problem of QA or system ops. Like that the blame game happened, and there were always a wall of confusion, okay, between all these teams, which is separating the team. Okay, fine, we understood this problem. So by this problem, who is a loser? Who is going to lose at this point? If you ask this question, you'll find we, all the team members, are losers. Why? Because your product delivery is getting delayed by the problem that arose. By that, the client is unhappy, or your customer is unhappy. When your customer is unhappy, your organization is unhappy. Means ultimately the impact is coming back to you. So this thing has to be understood properly, and it was very much delayed when it was in. Frankly, it's from my point of view, it took almost 20 years to understand this, because in this model, what I just talked about is something was happening in the waterfall model, and though waterfall has been advanced or modified to better accommodate software development and quality, in agile mechanism or agile methodology, still the deployment has been left behind. So to accommodate all these problems, or instead of identifying whose problem is this, to go to a solution and fix the problem and release it as soon as possible. That should be the mindset, right? So now DevOps bringing this culture of removing the wall of confusion or barriers between teams, or you can technically say the silo environment the people worked. DevOps is trying to bring them out from the siloed environment and put together in a one plane to work together to ensure the product is being released faster. That's the ultimate goal of DevOps. So let's, whatever we discussed, technically if we say the problems without DevOps are chronicle conflict between Dev and Ops, which I explained you. Technical debt means there are more releases are coming, like released by the Dev and testing QA team, but the operations are not done with the previous release. So slowly what happens? The amount of release gets piled up, and the other side, the client wants, okay, give me the features or give me the releases faster, but here ops team is not able to provide that or release that because of there are multiple releases already pending. So you go into a technical debt ultimately. The fragile systems. What does this mean is, as I said, whenever there is some issue, you try to fix as soon as possible, because no one want to stay with the problem, right? But what is the guarantee that whatever the fix you given, it's a perfect fix, and then the issue is not going to come anymore? So majority of the time this problem has resulted from the failure of testing, proper appropriate testing, because the time for testing is also less. The testing team do a quick test and try to release as soon as possible, and finally they figure out the problems in the production environment, right? So which is not a really good method, or usually that's named as your fragile system instead of a better application that you are releasing. Bigger promises on failures. So usually, your management, I'm sure as you guys are some of you working, you must have seen that if something fails, your management will promise more than what they can they can do to the customers or clients. So when bigger promises, your pressure is also goes big. So you lose the charm of the work. The fun of doing the work at your workplace. So the big picture, how should we look at DevOps. In previous models, basically, you must be aware what we are calling as software development life cycle, and we had some phases or steps what we have saw in that previous models. And what are they are requirement gathering or planning, coding or development, build or that comes under the coding itself, coding and building. Testing is one phase, then you release, then you deploy and maintenance. So basically 5 phases were there, excluding feedback. So feedback was something which was completely separated from this requirement gathering, coding, testing, deployment, maintenance. Out of this, the feedback was separated such a way that after complete release of your product, then only the customer uses it, and then you get a feedback. That part also has been changed, or there are efforts to get it changed in DevOps. And how? We'll see. Let's understand that slowly. So once you code, we have to build the code. Build means you compile the code with as necessary libraries and third-party tools that those are required to run your code. And after that is done, the testing has to be completed, and then you release it, deploy it. So as you see, this everything we are doing in a fashion of continuity. Like this infinite symbol itself shows you a continuous cycle. So DevOps tells you about continuity or continuous. So you continuously code, integrate them, build them, test them, and release them without stopping. That means the deployment also needed continuously. So as soon as you release the product or release the application from the dev and testing, it gets deployed. And usually in this mechanism, the application may not be completely completely means whatever feature set. Let's say we have 100 features to be developed. We may not be deploying all the 100 features. In fact, all the 100 features would not have developed yet. Some of the feature, let's say 5 features. We want 5 features to be developed in 2 weeks. And basically the 2 weeks of time is got named as a sprint. So that sprint word actually came from your agile. So in one sprint, that is 2 weeks of time, we have decided to create 5% of the work or 5 units of the work. And that 5 unit of your work is going to be coded, built, tested, ready to release. And you are going to deploy the 5 units of work only. That means here you have a client who can at least instead of the entire application, they can validate the 5 units of your work or the whatever application, and easily they can give you feedback. And that saves a lot of time as well. How? If you give the complete application the 100 units of work, how much time it's going to take, which was actually being done in the previous models like waterfall. They will work on the entire thing, then only they will give. Within the time frame, nobody knows what's going on. So there is absolutely no visibility of what application is being made, what coding is being done. There was no visibility at all to the end user or to the client. But here, that problem has been all solved. The total work has been divided into smaller parts. You focus on the smaller parts, not the everything. One more additional benefit what we got is, let's say in the previous model, in waterfall model, how we are delivering all 100 works at a time. After delivering 100 unit of work, if there are lot of changes that the customer or the client wants, what would be the effort that you need to, like, put on the 100 units of work? It's very difficult, but understand in
Sorry,
this.
the interruption. You have any presentation? Only.
Right, I'm you are not seeing it, anyone?
No, 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 no. I'm not saying.
Anyone
Please
else not
share.
seeing? Priya?
No one is saying.
Yes, I am able to see your presentation.
Okay, let me
Oh,
reshare it.
okay, okay. I'm leaving and this.
Why not one? Till now nobody said yet. Is it working a bit now?
No, no, no. I'm not able to sing. Sharing is free.
For me, it's visible.
Okay. Prashant, you see it, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Himanshu, Rishikesh.
Yeah, I can see. I can see it now.
I can see it.
Right. So, Abid, can you please check something like rejoin or try to rejoin?
Sure, sure. I'm checking.
Azhar, you can also see, right?
I'm seeing the
Okay. Right. And- Okay. Thank you. So I am continuing from this point. Okay. So what I was talking is the feedback, right? So when you are able to release a smaller part in a smaller time frame, and so that it can be validated well, right? And multiple times it will be validated. Let's, as I said, 100 units of work we have to complete, and we are completed in first 2 weeks 5 units of work, which is good, fine. That has been delivered to the customer is happy that okay, I can see the progress in after next 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, another 5 units of work. So customer can really visualize what exactly he is getting, and in case any changes he need, he can tell also. So here the problem solved. Your time is getting saved. If any changes are coming, it will think only if let's say in the second set of work, like the second 5 units, you have some changes. First 5 units went well, second 5 units of work need some changes. It is easy to change only 5 units of work rather than working on the entire 100 units of work. So everyone is getting benefited in this process right now. Hence the entire world is trying to focus on. So whatever we discussed, I have tried to present in a graphical manner. In waterfall, what was happening? Your designing getting done, development was given complete whole time, that 100 units of work what I was talking about. After completion of 100 units of work, testing will be getting done, and then deployment will be happening. You think, imagine how if this all the work need to be changed, it will be a real nightmare. And apart from that, you can see the testing team are getting lesser time than development, which is actually wrong. How can we expect, if it let's say, take example, if the development taken 6 months, how can we ensure only half of that will can be done in, or you can see as per the image, it's quarter of that or maybe 1/4 of that time.